Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world. All right. So, everyone who has never, ever, ever listened to the Ask Brien radio show, well, I think you're in for a treat. Every week we have a show where we try to help entrepreneurs, help business owners learn something about business. We will either have a CEO of a company, a startup, a new concept, or someone just trying to teach people something about business. That's our goal each week. That's what we try to do. And many, many people have always said to us, why do you spell Ask Brien, A-S-K-B-R-I-E-N? People don't understand what the E stands for. But we have an engineer that luckily his occupation begins with an E, and he's going to tell us. So, Mr. Engineer, why in the world is Ask Brien spelled with an E? Brien should be spelled B-R-I-A-N, B-R-Y-N. Why? You spelled with an E. Did you not take spelling in school or what?
I mean, I took spelling in school, and because I took spelling in school, I actually know why the Brien is spelled with an E. Because you know why? There's a couple of words that have to do with Ask Brien that are very important, kind of like our little theme of the show. One of them being that Ask Brien has a lot of experience, because you have to be a very experienced person to be qualified to be on the show.
How many years experience do you have?
Huh?
How many years experience do you have?
I mean, I got some experience. I'm just an engineer. I'm here, aren't I? Another one is effort, because everybody at the Ask Brien show gives more than 110% of their effort in doing what they do. The other one is experts, because everybody on Ask Brien happens to be an expert in their own field and whatnot. Other ones we have are excellence, because we offer nothing but excellence towards in everything and everybody we deal with. My personal favorite one happens to be the engineer, because you can't really run the show without an engineer, and that would be your boy right here, me. Heyo.
Well, I don't know. I think we should spell Brien AI, because artificial intelligence, and then it would have a brain, B-R-A-I-N.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's a good one. Traci. He got me on that one. That's a good comeback.
I'm pretty sure he did get you on that.
He got me on that one. That was a good one. I got nothing on that.
And he's under the weather and everything, and he's that sharp. We better be really nervous. Patty, we better get really ready for this show today.
I'm on my toes already now.
And so what are the other reasons?
Well, one of them, considering now you're a little you're under the weather a little bit, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to scream this one, but we have excitement and enthusiasm. I mean, I'm not... Woo!
Excited!
There you go.
I'll do it. I'll scream on your behalf. Woo! Woo!
There, see? Traci got us covered.
Well, thank you, Traci. I needed the assist today. I am a little bit under the weather. But we still have a great show. And we actually, today's guest was on our show within the last 2 months. But he had so many people calling in and saying, listen, he did a great job. Plus, he had a couple of things that he wants to kind of fix up and get a little bit better, because he is an excellent person and perfectionist, likes to get the job done excellent. So he has a couple of things that he wants to fix, but he doesn't really need to fix anything. He just has such a high perfectionist attitude. So, without any further ado, and how do you spell ado?
A-D-I-E-U.
And that's why you went and took spelling in class, correct?
Absolutely.
You knew at some point in time you'd be on the show, and you need to be able to speak to Brien with ado. So you just had that foresight, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the foresight for it. What can I say?
Well, so without any further ado, we have a guest. His name is Tom Neely. Tom, you there?
Yes, sir. It's an honor to be back.
Well, we appreciate you back. You're a very good guest, and as long as they keep on asking to have you back, we'll keep having you back.
Yeah, my phone blew up after the last show. Everyone listened, and they wanted more clarification, and they thought you guys were great. And I see that the podcast of the show got a lot of traction. It's your most.
It's It's our most downloaded episode. Woohoo!
Yeah, I was surprised to see that because I didn't think you guys were going to call me back. I thought I might have, not done a good job.
Well, we really did want to call you back, but I had no choice. They required me to. Anyway, Tom, when we were on the show last time, there were two rules that I want to go over a little bit because we had a little bit of we need some clarification on. The first one is, and we are going in order, so it's going to be slightly different. This is rule number 3, doing the grunt work. Can you explain? Because not everybody understood that, and we want to truly understand what grunt work is, other than trying to train the engineer how to use the word E. What kind of grunt work do you mean?
You are real hard on your engineer. You know that? You guys really pick on him.
So hard on him. I am not. I'm nice.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you, Tom. Thank you for bringing that.
Well, rule number 3, you know what? A good leader, good owner, good manager can't gain the respect of the staff or the teammates unless he's willing to do the dirty job he requests his employees to do. So what that means is some people took it the wrong way if they needed an IT guy or an attorney or, a graphic designer that you should be able to do every single job. That's not what that means. What that means is the job nobody wants to do that's mundane, difficult, tedious, stressful. You got to be willing to do that. You can't just throw your staff at that and expect them to always be as motivated as you would be to do it. The only way to show them how to do it is to do it yourself, and then everyone kind of picks up the ball together and runs it in. That is really what that means. So I want to make sure everyone's clear on that.
So, Pat, you understand that next week I will be the engineer because I have to show you how to do the grunt work.
Well, then I'm not going to be here.
Does that mean I'm the host next week then if we're swapping?
Wow. Now, then, if that's the case, I will be here.
Only if you can scream, Patrick. You have to be able to scream.
Everybody knows I'm very, very loud when I can be.
And even when you're not.
Yep.
So now let me ask you a question. Not everybody can do the grunt work. So how do you do that? So let's say you're the owner of a business and the grunt work is, hooking up the cable satellite, okay, for the office, right?
Well, that would be more specialized. But as a manager or CEO, you know which people you can count on for which dirty job you need done. But you have to be willing to do those dirty jobs too, and you got to do it with them sometimes. It's hard to explain what the grunt work is. I think every business has its own form of grunt work. For us, it's Excel spreadsheets with minute information, which will bore you to death, and your eyes will fall out of the back of your head. That kind of stuff. You got to be willing to do that. Just deal with nasty customers, bill collecting, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and another rule you wanted to clarify, and this is the other rule you want to clarify, dealt with inventory rules. Now, when you say inventory rules, the only inventory rules I ever heard of, and I'm an accountant by background, so I've heard of FIFO and LIFO, last in, first out, first in, first out. Are those the inventory rules you're talking about, or is it something different?
Yeah, we went over the inventory rule. I think Traci is switching from one business model to the other. Is that correct? Something like that? And
well, yes, so I was a 100% service-based industry prior to the launch of my Company Producer podcast. And my Company Producer podcast actually has inventory and humans and membership, recurring revenue models. It's a whole different ballgame with going from a one-man solo entrepreneur service-based business to a team of 15 plus remote employees and inventory and everything else. So that was my challenge when we spoke last.
Yeah, what I was saying there, and boy, I got a lot of kickback in this. I got some emails, I got some text messages. Even one of my mentors, longtime business mentors for many years, from all the way from Michigan, texted me in all caps, inventory control. And he could not believe I said 3 years on hand of inventory for some manufacturing models. And I guess what happened there was that is how I do it, but it is not recommended for every inventory type model. Most of the time, businesses are best off with, 30 to 120 days worth of inventory, somewhere in there. But as a manufacturer, you definitely want to expand your production runs as most profitably as you can to get more inventory out of your labor. So that is, it's glossing over it, but it just really depends on your business. The 3-year or the 3-month model may not be for everybody. It might be a 1-year model. So maybe I was a little bit too absolute in my description, and I just want to make sure everyone knows that there are many ways to skin a cat,
Well, also, don't you have to plan with inventory if you're going to come out with a new product or an improved product, that you don't have too much inventory, and then you've got all this product you got to get rid of? Isn't that an issue sometimes as well?
Could you repeat that question one more time?
So sometimes you have a new product coming out. For instance, let's say you're the iPhone. You've got the iPhone 12, and now you're coming out with the iPhone 13. So you have to be careful to make sure that you don't have so much inventory that you have to get rid of it and sell it at a loss or a discounted price. So you have to, plan out how much inventory you plan on selling over a certain period of time as well.
Yeah, obsolescence. That's the obsolescence model. Yeah, you really have to watch that in a lot of other industries. For me, personally, my business is hardware, which hasn't changed since, the covered wagon days. It's pretty much the same stuff. So we don't have obsolescence issues with our business. So I had forgotten about that when giving that advice and that rule. But some businesses do real well on the 3-year model. Some do great 3 months, 6 months. But you just got to feel it out. And your CPA is going to be able to tell you what's best for you and your model. So we just wanted to clarify those two before we get into beating each other up on other things.
Well, we're about ready to beat you up. So are you ready?
I hope so. I was gonna tell you, Traci really comes off very sweet if you listen to that podcast from January, and you are just grilling me on that. You're constantly trying to trip me up.
That's the difference.
Welcome to the Ask Brien Show.
I really like
that's
Traci.
That's the difference between an attorney and Mike Wallace versus someone just trying to get brownie points. Anyway,
it would be difficult in a deposition.
I prefer Katie Couric analogy versus Mike Wallace, if you don't mind. I just saying.
So, Tom, a lot of people have been calling us up, and they say, listen, cash is really tight right now during COVID, and I keep on getting these offers in the mail, and, some of them sound really good, but some of them I'm really nervous about. In fact, I read one, and I read the back, and it says 28% interest per month. I was like, what is a loan shark? I mean, what is going on? So question for you is, if you need to borrow money and you cannot get into a government program, what's the best way to borrow money, and what kind of rates are we looking at?
Well, I'll tell you, 20% monthly, if you do the numbers, it won't tell you that exactly in the fine print, but if you run it through a payment calculator, some of these offers they're sending, and I think every business is getting 3 or 4 of these a day. I know our business, we get probably 10 or 15 emails and probably 5 or 6 calls for these legalized loan shark loans, which look really good on paper. They have a logo that you would recognize from a bank you would recognize. They look very, very good. And they say 1%. We'll give you $250,000 at 1%. Well, anyone would jump on that, but it's $250,000, 1% daily is what it is.
Oh.
The payback is weekly, and in the long run, when you run it through a payment calculator, it's about 40 to 50% APR on some of these loans, and it's legal. And what is so strange about it is during Obama's 2 terms, he was supposedly championing the fact that they had eliminated this predatory banking, but every bank appears to be a predator now more so than ever. And I don't know where they found the loophole to do this. But it is a nasty thing in the marketplace right now. There are probably 10 or 15 football stadiums that are named after these said banks. And it's just an amazing, illegal, legal lending practice. So what I would recommend for most people is if you can't call grandma or your mom and dad, you're going to have to figure out how to raise capital in other ways without borrowing, which is liquidate anything that you don't need. If it's not nailed down and you don't need it, dump it, sell it, raise your own capital. Because these loans, they're just they're a noose, is what they are. They're a noose around your neck.
Well, what about other options? Like, for instance, I hear a lot about the Small Business Administration. What about that and getting a loan through them?
You know, I've unfortunately seen the dark side of the SBA, and I've seen the good side of the SBA. Personally, with the SBA, one thing that people don't realize is most of those 7A loans that they do, for instance, for land, if you're buying your building that you're in, or a credit line, is they are usually flex. So it's prime plus 2, or prime plus 2 3/4, I think, is the latest. And they're flex loans. You can get in trouble on those. And as far as a line of credit or a mortgage goes, combination, where they give you a mortgage and they give you a line of credit, say for a couple $100,000. Both loans are flex, and they will tell you through their bank. We should actually clarify this. We should back up for a minute. The SBA isn't the one giving you the money. The SBA is just guaranteeing the money for the banker that's giving you the money. That's what the SBA does. So when you get an SBA check, it just doesn't happen from the SBA. It happens from, like, John Doe banking. But what they do is they guarantee the banker, we'll just say AskBrienBank.com, right? AskBrienBank.com gives you a loan for $500,000, and you're not allowed to pay that down for the first 3 years without penalty. But at the 37th month mark, you're allowed to start making big chunk pay downs on it. They will request your financials every year and see how you're doing financially, see how your inventory levels are if you're an inventory business. And they will evaluate your business and the risk of your business. At about the 3-year mark, you have paid enough interest back to them where if you go belly up at the 3-year mark, the government, SBA, is going to cover 85% of that loan. Well, the bank received the interest. The SBA is providing the insurance. So at the 3-year mark, if the banker does not like you for any reason on paper, in your financials, they can jettison you and foreclose on you. A lot of people don't know that. But what they can do is, as a lawyer, you probably know this, is called tortuous interference with economic advantage. And what the real bad banks are doing is they will pull in the financials from a company, and they will look for inventory reduction. Say a business had $500,000 on the shelf of parts, and by the 3-year mark, they reduce their inventory down to $325. They look at that as lost collateral in the business. You may have been running down inventory that was surplus and getting to more profitable rotations on your inventory. They don't care. They will feel the loan out the best they can and jettison the loan. And it's really, really tricky. You have to run a clean set of books and keep your nose clean with these SBA lenders. That is on mostly line of credits and mortgages combined. On a mortgage, you're pretty much, you're okay with that one. But whenever you involve the SBA in a line of credit, you've got to watch out.
So are you saying that even if you're making all your payments, and if you have an SBA loan through Traci Bank Incorporated, and you make all your payments on time, that you can still be foreclosed upon?
They can really make your life difficult, yes. That is the fact. If you're current on your loan, you can still be a high-risk account. And they can, in the fine print that you sign when you sign some of these SBA deals, and, unfortunately and shamefully, I know this firsthand from many, many years ago on one of them. And the others, I've helped some other guys get some of these SBA loans and seen them just completely turn upside down. And Congress is actually looking into this. They're finally getting wind of how some of these banks work. And because the bankers, they're judged by a metric within their own bank of well-performing loans and high-risk loans. You can have a well-performing loan that's high risk. Like, for instance, a business is they're hurting, their receivables are way down, their payables are up, their inventory levels are down. That's high risk. Even if they're making a payment, they look at that like, oh, this is going to turn into trouble. We need to get rid of this guy. And the SBA is going to cover 85% of wherever they are at that point. So they can almost get out of these loans, break even at the 3-year mark. And a lot of people think that that is crazy, but it is actually true.
Wow, that is pretty bad. We've got to take a break. We're going to be right back with the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM with our guest, Tom Neely. We'll be right back.
Comfort Keepers provides your loved one with loving in-home care.
Miles McNamara, certified senior advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in-home care.
Our caregivers can help you in your own home, enhancing independence, creating safety and comfort. Our Comfort Keepers provide companionship, meal preparation, medication reminders, assistance with personal care, and even transportation to doctor's appointments. If someone you love can use a helping hand at home, visit comfortkeepers.com.
Or call 287-4200.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the Law Office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the Law Office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
We salute our veterans who sacrifice for our freedom. Every week, we share an inspirational story of a local veteran on our Hometown Heroes page at hometownstation.com, thanks to our good friends at Eternal Valley.
I'm Richard Nunnally, General Manager of Eternal Valley Memorial Park and Mortuary. We believe taking care of each other is what community is all about. We're proud to bring you the stories of our hometown heroes.
Eternal Valley, life well celebrated.
Visit hometownstation.com, sponsored by Eternal Valley.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome. Listen to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And we have our two guests today, Traci and Tom. Anyway, you like that, huh? TT. So, let's see. Tom comes before Traci, so Traci, you are third on that list. Anyway, we are back. Traci had a whole bunch of questions, and we are going to come back. We were talking most recently about SBA options and loans and predatory practices. And so we just to finish that up, and Traci had a couple questions she wanted to go. You're on. Go, Traci.
Yeah, so this is TNT Dynamite. This is what this section is called.
I didn't know your name was Jimmy, but okay.
So you're an AC/DC fan. That's great.
No, Jimmy, the guy that goes Dynamite.
Well, yeah, you're about to get out of my age group on that one. But anyway, so I can barely say that, by the way. So, Tom, we were talking during the break about with COVID and the funds that have been available to support businesses, especially the small businesses who have struggled so much, hospitality industries and so forth. About the difference between the PPP loan and the EIDL loan, which is the SBA loan. Does that come under separate categories in terms of the predatory concept that you were discussing?
No, those are fantastic for a lot of people. Those are working very well. The only thing, to back up for a minute on the SBA predatory, it's not the SBA that are the predators. It's the banks that are dealing the SBA loans. That's where you get into shenanigans. Not all banks are bad, but there is a loophole in there. I hate that word loophole, but there's an unlocked door there for an opportunist in a bank to really get you on some interest and some bad terms. But on these PPP and EIDL loans, those are fantastic, I think. you've got round one and round two of the PPP. The first PPP pretty much went to anybody, as you hear on the news, even people that didn't deserve it. And those PPPs supposedly are forgiven, although paperwork is slow to get out on those to say, hey, you have been forgiven and, staple this to your tax return. That is not going as smoothly as it should. But that it shouldn't deter you from going after round two of PPP, which is out there now. But I think what they did, and I think it's smart, you guys might disagree with me, but this second round of PPP, it's going for the really hard-hit industries like hospitality, restaurants, that kind of stuff. And I think that is really where it should be. I think there was a lot of free rides out there that shouldn't have been taken on the first PPP, and now they've made it a little more comprehensive with this round two. And then the other one, what was the other one? The EIDL, right?
The SBA EIDL, correct.
Now, the SBA EIDL, that one comes directly from SBA on round one of the EIDL. I heard they're doing a round two now of EIDL where they're going to automatically send you an email if you received your first EIDL. And EIDL stands for something, emergency something. Can't remember. Disaster loan.
It does. Yeah, disaster loan, right.
So, and I don't know if you could call it a real disaster, but I guess they changed the word of infrastructure, the meaning of it, so they can change the word of disaster, I guess. But the EIDL round one was up to $150,000 at 3.75 on a 15 or a 30 year, I think, which is like a mortgage on a small house in Tennessee. And that really saved a lot of companies from going under. They were able to consolidate credit card debt and other things and basically get a year free on that without having to pay that back and go at 3.75. That was a good deal for a lot of people. And I hear that's coming back around, and they're going to double that for the businesses that already received the first 150 max. So I would recommend, if anybody needs cash, to go for these EIDLs, because that eliminates a lot of middlemen, eliminates a lot of the predatory banking at 40% APR that's out there right now. It eliminates a lot of room for shenanigans, and I really am a big fan of those.
I think that's a personal question, Peter. So on the PPP applications, there just seems to be a lot of questions around that. One specific question that's been brought to my attention that I'd love to get your insight on is, can you apply for the PPP loan through multiple institutions?
Yeah. Oh, you mean all at the same time, or are they allowing you to go and shop it?
Well, I don't really know. That's kind of the confusion to me. So let's say, for example, I have an account with a credit union, but I also have an account with a bank like Wells Fargo. And every time I log into one or the other of those accounts, they say your PPP loan application is now ready for you to submit. And I just have also had friends say you should submit everywhere because, and I don't really see the advantage of that. People have told me, like, if you're going to apply for PPP loans, you should apply like through all of these different resources. Is it just like to see who gets the money first or you? Because you can only get one loan, right?
Yeah, you just jogged my memory. And you know what? I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, but my rule number 10 was reject subsidies, right? In rule number 10 in our first show. Well, I went for the PPP, and I was told by our banker, it doesn't matter where you apply or how many times you apply. Once you get in the system with a clean application, a number has already been issued to your Fed tax ID number, and that number will just go through only one time. However, some businesses got double PPP and had to pay them back, and they got in a little bit of trouble. So on the one hand, they were giving you that advice to just do the shotgun approach, and then on the other hand, some people got in trouble for it. So
I guess I would take away from that is that you should only apply one time.
Yeah, what we talked to our attorney, and he said just apply through the bank you already have your SBA mortgage with. And that is what we did. It took them 4 times as long to get it processed as, say, some other small bank or something, but it still got done. And with the EIDL, we just went direct to SBA's website and looked into that one.
Right.
But,
well, and then the other headline, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other headline I saw a couple of weeks ago was that it looks like the PPP is slated to run out of money again, but this time it seemed like they were saying that I guess the application deadline is May 31st, but they said the money might run out before the deadline.
Well, actually, the money ran out on February 20-something, believe it or not. And what a lot of SBA recipients were getting at that particular time was they were getting up to $9,000 relief max on any SBA 7A loan. I think there was another loan number in there. Forgive me for not knowing the number. But any mortgages or line of credits or expansion loans that were already in place before September of 19, those loans were going to get serviced 3 months up to $9,000 this year, beginning in February, and 6 months for some businesses in certain hard-hit sectors. Well, then the SBA sent out a letter that nobody got, and they pulled the plug. They pulled the plug on that on the March payment, so they ended up, of the 3 to 6 months they had planned in the $9,000 max contribution towards your loan payments, they only did 2 months, February and March only. So everyone got a surprise in April that they're no longer on corporate welfare. So that hurt a lot of businesses. I think, honestly, that's going to ripple in the economy here somewhere soon because a lot of people are back off. What do you call it? On the lamb, off the lamb, on the wagon, off the wagon, is something like that. But people are really surprised because no letters got to anybody letting them know this. They just noticed the full amount came out on their loan payment in April.
Oh, wow.
So that has been a nightmare. I've been talking to a lot of businesses about that, fellow entrepreneurs. They were very surprised to see that go wrong. But I have heard they're going to try and refund it and kick it back up sometime in June.
So when we were talking earlier about, when you were talking about the not so good SBA loans, the ones that can have the gotchas in them, you mentioned that it'd be more of a practical strategy to create other ways of funding, i.e., you said liquidation and some other suggestions. What are some things that a small business can do? I've seen a lot of crowdfunding campaigns lately, and some subscription models and membership and donation models. Are those things that you would recommend for an independent business owner who doesn't have access to some of these other government funds?
Anytime you can squeeze a bank out of your pocket, you're doing good. Any of those that you mentioned, those are all great, as long as you're not getting ripped off on interest or any kind of partnership pieces being taken from your company or partnership shares. Anything you can do like that is fantastic. Anytime you can eliminate a bank from your life is fantastic. Bankers are evil. All banks are evil, in my book. But I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too strongly for the show. I know it's a G-rated show.
Oh, you didn't use an expletive when you said it, so I think you're okay.
It's PG-rated.
Yeah, but you know what I feel is going on is there's so much free money in the market now. There's so much free money. And anybody that sends you an email now, they look official, and you don't know who these people are. They're just buying and selling money. And there's just so much interest being paid out on some of these things. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to get hurt by this in a year or two. I feel like the pendulum is going to swing back. Right now we're on a big upswing in retail sales nationally. I really feel like there's going to be a lot of people hurt really hard from all of this lending that's going on with these high interest rates in about 1 to 2 years. I really think, it's going to come home to roost here pretty soon.
In our previous episode, go ahead, Peter.
So what can people do to protect themselves if you think that it's going to be a problem in a year or two?
That's a really good question. I learned the hard way, unfortunately. When I was younger, I learned the hard way, and fortunately, in my career, I've never had to go BK. I know a lot of people think it's a great way to restructure. I never believed in BK, but I think what you do is you go online and there's a lot of loan calculators and there's a lot of ways to figure out interest schedules on your own. You really don't need a banker with a black magic calculator. You can figure it out yourself, figure out your interest you're paying, figure out what extra payments are going to do to the bottom line, and really put that interest payment in perspective for you and ask yourself, is it worth it to expand my business and pay all of this interest, or keeping this expensive piece of equipment I hardly ever use for all this interest? Liquidations may be in order. Downsizing may be in order. That is probably a wiser choice than borrowing to stay afloat with a ship that's too heavy to float.
On our previous episode, one of our previous episodes, we had a commercial real estate banker who was giving us some insights on the what we're going to face with commercial leases coming up and people not renewing them because of the remote work situation. Do you have any insight to share on what you think that's going to do to our economy locally and nationally?
Well, I can tell you down here in the South Bay on February 20, before COVID really came home hard, there was about a 18% vacancy rate on Hawthorne Boulevard from roughly where Palos Verdes is up to about Manchester Boulevard. That's a long stretch of retail. And 6 months into COVID, that is almost at 45%. Only 6 months in. And it's about the same now about a year later. We're coming up on April. And the vacancy rate's about 45%. But that's on retail. What I see is industrial property. I see very little vacancies. I don't see a lot of vacancies yet. And I've been looking for an extra warehouse because we're expanding. I haven't seen it in industrial yet. I don't know if that is because those leases are longer term usually than mom pop retail. But I think there is something coming there. I just haven't seen it yet.
Why don't we also shift just to, because you've been so gracious with your tips that have been extremely popular in terms of being helpful for solving problems. What are some of the things that a company can do if they have been significantly impacted outside of getting funding or liquidating or doing crowdfunding to generally raise funds? What are some of the other things that businesses can do who are really struggling to survive this last calendar year, knowing that with the vaccines and things, we might be, near a home stretch. We still don't know for sure. What are some other things these businesses can do to sustain themselves till we get through this?
I think that we're almost through it, to be honest with you. I think if they've got enough muster in them to hang on a little longer, maybe we'll see what this Christmas shopping season does. I think I make a decision at the end of this year if I stay or I go. If I'm in a struggling business, I don't bail out midsummer. I wait to get through the summer, get kids back to school hopefully, and of course, NFL season starts. Everybody's going to be happy again, and it's a mood. Once the mood shifts, the country can shift too. I really think that, believe it or not, activities and the year coming to an end, kids back in school, hopefully in fall, I really think that's going to change people's attitudes. And I really think if you can hang on, you need to hang on till the end of the year and then make a decision.
And hope that decision is a positive one just for the economy and morale and everything else, right?
I really believe that, yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If everyone's walking around doom and gloom, we're going to go into doom and gloom. But if you're positive and you think things are going to turn around, it just feeds itself. But right now it's hard to really tell because, we got a new administration. He's still trying to find his sea legs. And the SBA is out of money right now, but they're trying to put that back together. I think in 3 months. Ask me again in 3 months. Hopefully you'll bring me back.
Well, that sounds like a recurring guest role.
Even if we have another guest, we're going to call you back in 3 months to ask you in the middle of the day.
I didn't catch
that.
I said we're going to ask
he'll
you in
have
3
you
months.
back.
No matter who is on the show, in the middle of the show, we're just going to pick up the phone and call you up and ask you.
Okay. That's very nice, Peter. You know, Traci, when you were asking about vacancies and everything, were you asking about rentals or owning? I wasn't quite sure. Maybe I answered that question wrong.
Well, no, I mean, you answered it correctly in terms of what I was thinking of, which is people who have either, signed leases or have these long-term leases, but they just, for whatever reason, working remotely was successful for them, or they see the benefits in that, or coming back into an office just doesn't work for their business model anymore because they pivoted a good bit to online commerce. I mean, they're all kind of different scenarios. I mean, owning, I would imagine would lead to foreclosures. Leases would lend to vacancies based on either breaking the lease, not being able, filing bankruptcy or whatever. But, at the end of the day, the impact on all of this empty real estate is challenging. And also to your point about morale and the energy of it all, it's hard to drive down the street of some of these towns and just see, it seems like every time when the first of the month comes around, it's another vacant building because I guess their lease ended and they either couldn't afford to renew it or didn't renew it. And so there's a lot of sort of disturbing perspectives and perceptions around that.
Yeah, that's true. It's mostly the hardest hit is the mom pop, and honestly, and it's really hard to say this, but it's by zip code. It's depression and recession by zip code. Some zip codes are just thriving, some zip codes are not thriving, and it's hit and miss. But one thing I have noticed is industrial property does not appear, at least from my perspective in 310 and 818. I do not see the impact on the industrial property yet, but definitely mom pop retail, very, very, it's disheartening to see.
And we're going to take a break with that. We're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. We'll be right back.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the law office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the law office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
When you look at your child, you see so much. A creative spirit that surprises you every day. A little leader growing to discover who they are, what they love, and how they can make the world better. At SCVI, we see those same amazing things. Our tuition-free TK through 12 charter school provides boundless opportunities to think critically and imagine freely, with a learning program customized just for your child. Today, that means empowering your child to bring strengths and passions to the distance learning environment. Our approach keeps your child and family in step while online, inspiring your learner to keep growing without missing a beat. At SCVI, your child will find even more ways to grow with projects and activities in STEAM, robotics, theater, music, and sports. With the only international baccalaureate program in Santa Clarita, SCVI produces graduates who excel at top universities and in life. For enrollment information or to learn more about our distance learning program, visit ileadsantaclarita.org. iLead Schools. Free to think, inspired to lead.
Olive Terrace Bar and Grill is the hottest new Mediterranean fusion restaurant in Santa Clarita with unique delicacies like seafood right off the boat, mouth-watering prime steaks, artesian sandwiches, delicious pastas, and tasty kebabs. Unwind on their cozy outdoor patio at their weekend champagne brunch. Full menu and weekly specials at oliveterracebarandgrill.com. Check out their full bar and happy hour daily specials in Valencia on Copper Hill and Newhall Ranch Road by LA Fitness. Olive Terrace Bar and Grill, delicious food seasoned with love.
Loss of hearing can affect the quality of life. Santa Clarita Hearing Center can help. They specialize in both preventative hearing loss and corrective measures, including diagnostic tests, new technology hearing aids, cochlear implants, hearing protection, and tinnitus treatment. They can adjust your current hearing aids or fit you for new ones. Santa Clarita Hearing Center also offers sleep molds, swim molds, and musician monitors. Book an appointment today. Log on to SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com, located on McBean Parkway next to the hospital. That's SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. This is my co-host, Tracy, and our guest, Tom. Neely. Tommy, yeah?
Yes, sir. How are you guys doing?
Okay.
I thought you were too sick to do that. I really thought you were too sick to do that.
It takes
now
a
you're
lot
going to have to take a nap.
not do that. It
I
takes
think
a
you're
lot.
getting better as the show proceeds.
Exactly. It's the enthusiasm and the excitement from the show. So, Tom, some people have asked if they want to reach you and they don't know how to get in touch with you. They have some not personal, but business questions, and you've been giving a lot of good answers. So how would they reach you?
Tom at anplumbing.com, AN like Army Navy, plumbing.com, anytime.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you willing to respond to anybody who sends you a question and what time frame you're talking about?
Well, that's in my rules, of course, from the first show. You remember, answer all emails immediately by 5 p.m. That's our rule.
And if you missed the first show, listeners, you can grab it on the podcast, the Ask Brien podcast, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts.
Yeah, I think it was the
so
January 7th
you can re-listen
show.
to it. Yes, but you can download it at any time on your favorite podcast platform, so you can hear all the really great answers you gave to us the first time around.
Yeah. So, Tracy, you had a hard question, and during the break, you asked me what I would recommend people do if they wanted to start a business during these times at this time.
And you have 120
Go
seconds.
for it.
Go.
120 seconds. Go.
120 seconds. What I would say is, well, if you're going to do it, now is the time because everything's cheap to get in. You know, there's a lot of fire sales going on. There's, like we talked about earlier, a ton of vacancies, a lot of motivated landlords with free rent and really profitable leases available out there. I think if you're going to go for it, now's the time.
Well, and we wish everybody success at doing that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Any specific businesses?
You know, that's the other thing I was thinking about that, too, at the break is which business would I pick? I don't know what I would pick, but I think food, if you can get into a community where they're allowing people to sit down, and there's restaurant auctions all over the place. There's 10 or 15 auctions in my inbox, and more than that probably from the auction network, and they're all restaurants. That might be a good way for a restaurateur to get in really cheap, start from the ground up.
You think a restaurant or you think more like food delivery?
Well, that too, do it both. You got to be everything to everybody now when you're in the food biz. Got to have the outdoor seating in case this happens again. You got to have the indoor seating, got to have the DoorDash, Uber Eats. You got to be very diversified next time around. But I think if you're getting into a restaurant, I know it sounds crazy because they're all dying right now, but, ashes bring growth.
Ashes bring growth. So that's
like the Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising from the ashes, basically, right? But just a new Phoenix.
Yeah, ashes bring growth. And that was in our rules, too. The biggest gains you'll make are in depressions and recessions. If you've got the cash on hand to do it, you're going to pick up the pieces from someone else,
How about your businesses? Your business ever get in a recession?
We got hit hard in 2003. 9/11 almost wiped us out, and then it hit about 2 years later in 2003. That was very difficult. The recession in 97 was very difficult. But that 2003, that was a killer. That was a killer. We survived.
You got about
the
5 seconds.
Huh?
You got about 5 seconds left. So,
well, I appreciate you guys bringing me on.
We want to wish you well, and we will have you back. And I will be calling you someday when you're eating lunch and asking questions like, what? Huh?
Well, get healthy, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM with my co-host Tracy and our guest Tom. Thank you very much and have a great day.